my God, the sound makes me so nervous. It sets my heart racing each time I hear it.
I know a countdown. Oh my God, whether it's exams or those sort of mental countdowns, when the train doors are just
Yeah.
about to close and you're running to catch your train. Or in this case, a countdown in a cooking competition.
Speaking of cooking, I have loved to cook always. But of course, the comfort food, watching my grandmom and then my mom cooking in the kitchen, watching them trying to cook. And since childhood, I think I had had this desire to cook and plate like the fine dining chefs. And that is why I've watched several cooking shows, several competitions from legendary chefs. But then somehow I just couldn't do it.
All of those cooking shows, all of those competitions, yet she cooks the same thing every day, rice and curry.
Uh huh. No, I'm telling you, no food from you from tomorrow.
It's true. And I've always just really enjoyed competitions in general and reality TV. So I thought, let's give the series The Final Table a try.
Yes, try and worth it. Guys, if you feel food is a form of art, then this is a must watch.
Ah, yes.
Honestly, overall, the stunning studio set, the format, the anchor, mwah, I loved the entire show.
So many words. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Where did our one word rule go? Okay, one word.
All right, I'd say elegant. From the set design to the judging panels to the competitors to the plates.
That's a really fitting word, I'd say. For me, I would just say I've always been a huge fan of competitions, like I said, and food, of course, who doesn't? So, in one hyphenated word, I'd again say perfectly splendid.
And guys, if you do not know why I laughed, you should listen to our previous episode, The Living, the Dead, and the Bly Manor.
Yes. But overall, coming back to the final table, I just really, really love the global journey in this show. Like, if you compare it to some of the other cooking competitions, like you have your master chefs and the baking competitions, in this, I just loved that each contestant was an established chef of their own. They had Michelin stars, they had awards behind them, they had really good training at restaurants like the French Laundry. I mean, you have chefs competing at the highest level.
And then this show actually was like a little trip you make across the world. Every episode was a new journey, a new country, a new national dish, and a new judging panel.
So, with that, let's dive straight in. Let's understand how this show works, what made it so different, and why we personally think that it deserves much, much more love than it
Oh,
actually
it
got.
does. It does.
Hello, everyone. You're listening again to Oops, We Binged It Again, the podcast where a Gen Z daughter and her Gen X mum help you make sense of all that's out there to watch.
And as we have always promised, we will keep it spoiler free. We always keep it honest and light. So your next binge across any platform should be actually worth it.
And speaking of binges that were totally worth it,
Let's tell you what we loved about the final table. So, listeners, this show features 12 teams of two chefs each. So that makes it 24 really acclaimed chefs from all over the world. And then there are 10 episodes, about an hour each. And trust me, they will never feel long.
no,
And,
absolutely
and
not.
the first 9 episodes feature a new country each time, like the mini world tour. And the 10th is like, the finale.
And honestly, a lot happens in each episode. Like you said, it doesn't feel long because a lot keeps happening. Each episode, I would say, is roughly divided into two sections, two parts. The first part, there's a panel of about 2 to 3 judges that are invited from that particular country, that is the theme of that particular episode, and they choose a national dish. Now, these contestants that we have, these 24 chefs in teams of two, they have to recreate that national dish in a way that shows technique, the creativity. They basically just their goal is to elevate it. And the judges, you have actors, you have artists, you have athletes, and always, of course, a renowned food critic from that particular country that we're in right now. What I personally really liked, to be honest, was that you didn't really just have only food critics, people from that industry. Because at the end of the day, your food needs to appeal to everyone. That's when it makes it really, really good. But interestingly, these actors, artists, athletes, they were all from the same country. That means they know that national dish inside out, so there's really no place to hide.
Absolutely. And speaking of national dishes, listeners, from paella in Spain to English breakfast in the UK to butter chicken in India,
Ah.
and then talking about elevation, as Nandini said. You remember, Nandini, one pair of chefs in the America episode, the USA episode, for example. You remember? They recreated the Thanksgiving dinner all in a burger bite.
I
Oh,
know.
I don't think it could get more creative than that.
That's the kind of elevation we're talking about, really. And then the second part of each episode, that's the scary round. The three teams who have had the least impressive dishes in the first round, they have to go into what Andrew Knowlton describes the final plate challenge. Here you have a legendary chef from that particular country who comes in and gives these chefs an ingredient. Now, this ingredient could be as tricky as a cassava or an artichoke, or as humble as an egg. So, again, egg is simpler, but obviously more unforgiving.
Absolutely. And at the end of each episode, now the saddest part is one of the three pairs is eliminated.
Honestly, I think if we ever created and judged a cooking competition, we would just never eliminate, and it would be like 120 episodes long.
I think it will go on for eternity, Nandini. So, final episode, as we had said earlier, was not specific to a country, but so by the end of it, by the finale, there are only two pairs left. So the four chefs who've earlier been working together as a team, very, very tightly knit and friends, they then become competitors and they fight individually for the prize. And do you know what the prize is? No money, no trophy. No chef's coat either, like MasterChef would give you towards the end. The only reward here is earning that pride, that place at the final table alongside the 9 other legends from each of the countries that we visited through the series.
That is just such an incredible thing about this show. I mean, the good thing is you're not cooking for a win, but you're cooking to belong.
Absolutely.
That's so good. And I think the best part about this is that even though all of these people are really, really accomplished chefs, one time or the other, each of them is pushed out of their comfort zone.
I agree with that. And then for them, for everybody in one episode or the other, there was an uncharted, unfamiliar territory for sure.
Exactly. Like picking up on that, Rafa and Estras, that pair, they've never cooked Japanese cuisine.
Ah, yeah.
And then in the Japan episode, they were literally just caught off guard. And then Mark and Shane, I remember Shane, he was allergic to sea urchin. And that's the ingredient that you had to make the star of your dish.
The funny one, I remember, Shane and Mark.
But again, being allergic doesn't matter. You have to cook.
Yeah, absolutely. So listeners, we've talked about how the show works, and I hope you have a good idea by now. Now let's get into who's in it. The chefs, the teams, the judges who've shaped each episode to make it extremely memorable.
Yes, and starting with the host himself,
No.
Andrew Knowlton. My mom loved him. So he's the editor at large at Bon Appetit magazine. He's so graceful, super polished, and a bit of a nitpicker and a Mr. Complainer. I mean, I'll give you an example. I remember there was a pair of chefs. They had plated their dish with a rock on the plate, like a stone, because they really wanted to make the dish super visually appealing. Because I think, I can't remember correctly, but they wanted to sort of feature an underground, in the water kind
thing.
of
Yes,
scenery.
Yeah.
And obviously with that rock on the plate, the judges, they didn't really notice it. But then I think Andrew was like, why haven't they noticed it? And then Andrew goes, so, Judge X, how do you feel when there are inedible bits on the plate? And then the judge, out of nowhere, he was like, oh, actually, I really don't like it. I was like, why, Andrew? Why do you have to do that? And suddenly, everything in that episode was about the rock on the plate. I was like, oh my God, can we move on?
I know, he was staying so true to his role.
I know.
Be the critic all the time. And then we have these brilliant chefs, almost like a star-studded cast that was like literally handpicked, cherry-picked.
Mm-hmm.
You had proteges, you have friends and mentors, but all accomplished in their own right.
Exactly.
Remember James and Angel?
Mm-hmm.
And then guys, for those listening in the UK, James from that pair is a British chef who owns and operates restaurants that have earned 2 Michelin stars. I've really forgotten the name of the restaurant. I believe you can listen or watch it, and then
let us know as well.
Yeah, we will go. And Angel, he has cooked for Mexican presidents. Oh my God.
Oh, literally. And I cannot not mention these two, Shane and Mark. So
Why does that not surprise me, Nandini?
it's because Shane and Mark are Australians, and for someone who doesn't know me, I love the Australian accent. So already they were my favorite. But Mark, for example, of that pair, he has earned 3 chef's hats and he has held it for 10 consecutive years. And I learned that that's the highest honor you can have in Australia. And then you have Timothy and Darren, which is another pair. Remember, Timothy worked at Thomas Keller's French Laundry?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's regularly ranked among the best restaurants. And Thomas Keller, he's referenced as a gold standard in culinary shows. And then, oh my God, this I really have to mention. So my friends and I, we took a little trip back in July last year to Barcelona. And then there was this spot in Barcelona that we would always go to called Honest Greens. If the 3 of them are listening, they will know exactly what I'm talking about. This particular place was so good. It had the healthiest bowls. It was just our go-to every single evening after 20k steps that we walked. And I realized that Honest Greens is owned and operated by one of the chefs who was actually in this episode. It was just amazing and super lovely to watch. And for the 3 of you, definitely look out for Benjamin from that episode.
And when we said star-studded, we just did not mean contestants. We also meant about the panel of judges and the chefs through the show. So let's talk a bit about the celebrity ambassadors and the food critics in the first part of each episode. Remember, Nandi said there were 2 parts? So in the Brazil episode, for example, you'll find this critic, Josimar Melo. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I swear, I cannot compete with Andrew Knowlton here. So Josimar happens to be the president of the Brazilian jury for world's 50 best restaurants. Oh my God, daunting already.
I know.
In the USA episode, you remember Sam Sifton?
Oh, yes.
Food editor of the New York Times. In the UK episode, Jay Rayner, food critic, and he was also a guest judge for MasterChef UK, if I am not wrong.
And MasterChef UK, the professionals. That
yes,
one as
yes,
well.
yes. All of these intimidating at best.
Exactly. And then, like I said, beyond the food critics, you also have ambassadors like actor/comedian Dax Shepard.
The funny one, I remember.
Yes. And then you have the actor Colin Hanks. He comes in the US episode. And then you have the comedian Hassan Minaj. And then you have models like Hikari Mori and Alessandra Ambrosio, who is a former Victoria's Secret model.
They're so pretty and delicate, you remember?
Yes.
And then, listeners, you have the 9 legends who have already had a seat at the final table. So none that would not have featured in the world's top 50 restaurants.
And now that we're talking about legends, I'm sure you are dying to mention your favorite. Should we take a second to talk about him?
Gran Achatz. I used to call him Gran Achatz, and then
Grant
again,
Achatz.
see, Nandi keeps debating me with that. Anyway, Grant Achatz. So, guys, the reason why I love him is I once happened to have watched a series called Chef's Table, where they talk about the world's top 50. That is where they spoke about Grant Achatz, and apparently, unfortunately, he was diagnosed with a stage 4 tongue cancer. You can imagine, and they had a portion of his tongue cut out for the operation. You can imagine for a chef, it's like devastating to not have your
Obviously,
tongue,
yeah. Oh my
to
God.
not to be able to guide your teams or even taste what they're preparing. I remember he said that he used to then draw pictures of the recipes he wanted to make or the dishes he wanted to plate or make in the restaurant, and he used to send those pictures to his team, and they would follow that and make it.
Oh.
And with that, and of course he was resolved and driven. He recovered, thankfully, and
Yeah.
I'm so happy for him. I love him. I have so much of respect for him.
Yeah.
Just
no,
for
it's
that.
So inspiring, honestly. And like even about his restaurant, like remember?
Yeah, he said that I keep it theatrical. I love to engage people emotionally. And I think that's something that really touches my heart too.
Yeah, no, he's a real inspiration. I just don't deny that. And for me, I mean, I would definitely want to call out Anne-Sophie Pic from the France episode. She is obviously so accomplished. She was voted the best chef in the world and holds about 7 Michelin stars across all of her restaurants. But the really emotional part of that episode was she was talking about sort of the legacy. In her family, she's had her great-granddad, her granddad, her father, all hold Michelin stars across generations. And then I remember her mentioning that her father, when he passed away, a few days later, she lost a Michelin star. And then she says, it felt as if my father died again.
Oh, that was so touching,
That was
I swear.
such a touching part. So, you have these emotional elements as well in the series, which really make you connect with the contestants, the judges, everyone. So it's a really, really good series, I would say.
And of course, how can we not mention India? And if my neighbor is listening to this, he always tells me, for you, everything is about
Yes.
India, you remember? So, honestly, listeners, for me, it was a moment of pride to see our flag on that Guran set.
Ah, yes.
And Vineet Bhatia, the first Indian chef to get a Michelin star in 102 years. Oh my God.
Yeah, he was the legend that had come in that second part of the
Second
Indian
part
episode.
of the episode. And that episode also was so much fun with Hassan Minaj
Yes.
and Rashmi Uday Singh and oh my God, Madhavan.
Mhm.
So the only episode, listeners, where I understood all the ingredients, they were so familiar. When I saw that pantry, I so wanted to cook there myself.
No, but honestly, she was criticizing the contestants as well. I remember this poor pair, they were trying to cook a naan bread, and she was like, oh, look at that, he's burnt the bread. And then somebody was making a butter chicken dish, and then she was like, why is he adding sugar? He should be adding honey. And I was like, stop it.
Yeah, guilty. So even the US episode right after was so funny.
Oh, yes, that was so good as well. But overall, just remember how grand the set was.
It was so well done. It was grand, it was neat, it was large, and it was full of energy, intensity. The lights, the theatrics, and the studio audience.
It really felt like sort of that world-class stage for
yes,
food, no?
Absolutely. Overall, a really great show that stayed with us. And we've watched loads, listeners, after that. But since then, I do not think any really got to that level. We always end up comparing.
I know. And you know what I just recalled that you mentioned? I recalled Culinary Class Wars.
Oh, yes.
It's this show that came out on Netflix. It was a South Korean competition, I think. And we had like 100 people in that episode who from different backgrounds were competing together.
Ah, yes, the white spoon, black spoon concept.
Yes.
So where you either pass or fail instantly based on a single bite.
Yes.
I remember very well.
Interestingly, I don't know if Mom, you know this, it's rated higher than the final table
No.
on IMDb.
No.
And
Oh,
it's really surprising because I don't think we agree.
Culinary Class Wars look great, guys. I mean, don't get us wrong. But I feel it felt a bit predictable after a while. And it was very stretched. So you'd have to wait for so long before anything actually happened.
I know, and because of that, it just kind of lost that sharp competitive energy that you seek. But Final Table, on the other hand, it was fast-paced, it was tight, and everything was like really purposeful. The introductions, whether to the national dish, to the judges, contestants, they were really quick, honest, and there was no unnecessary build-up. So that's why I would say this is really a show for everyone. Anyone who enjoys competition, anyone who enjoys food. So I get that sort of really widens the circle. Anyone can watch it.
Exactly. It's one of those rare shows that's easy to watch, listeners. Very exciting and actually makes you feel a little smarter about food by the end of it. Honestly, as I said earlier, we learned so much about certain cultures and cuisines we had no idea about.
Honestly, and if your country happens to be featured in one of the episodes, it's so much more fun because you sort of like sit up straighter and go, let's see how they handle our food. Because that's what my mom was like in the Indian episode.
Also, every plate you see in the show will make you go, oh my God, oh my God. I remember that UK episode. Do you recall Tim and Darren's speed dish?
Oh my God, that was really
See, this is
pretty.
exactly what I meant. See, look at your reaction. And listeners, if this was visual in any way, we would have actually pasted pictures of those plates.
I know.
A treat to the eyes. So I think overall, in the context of the cooking competitions, Nandini, I think we both agree this one's a 10.
I think we disagree because I think it's an 11.
Ah, see?
But next week, we are leaving the kitchen entirely and going into slightly darker territory.
Ah, yes. A new series that starts with a simple sleepover request and quickly spirals into every parent's nightmare. It is a 5-part British thriller that delves into secrets, shifting identities, and a cross-border search that will keep you guessing.
So definitely keep an eye out for that. But for now, everyone, we're going to eat because honestly, I've talked enough about food now.